So this gentleman finally circled around to having a conversation with his brother about planning. His brother getting ready to pull the trigger on a life insurance policies, a high income guy living in one of the most expensive areas of the country at the time, and wife, children, deeply connected family. But his brother, again, just a little bit older. And he didn't feel like he could put his foot down and say, listen, bro, maybe it could be a little tiny mistake if you own too much life insurance and you'd lose a little bit of monthly premiums. That would be the small mistake. The big mistake is you not having this coverage if something happens to you. But he didn't want to press on his brother. His brother had kind of a really high class job and kind of felt like he was talked down to a little bit, having this little financial advising practice in a simple part of town. And so he didn't press. And what happened was his brother got some extraordinary headaches over the holidays. Now, this is years ago, holidays, not recent. Terrible headaches. Went to the emergency room and was diagnosed with a horrible type of brain cancer. Now, of course, as soon as he's diagnosed, what did he do, Corey? Wild guess? Who's his first phone call to?
Yeah, his brother to say, "Hey, can we get that life insurance squared away?"
Mm-hmm. Yep. And of course, the brother nearly wept and said, no, there's no chance. You've waited. And there is a checkbox that we have to check when you take delivery that your health hasn't changed. You would be absolutely defrauding the insurance company. You could do that. They will not pay the claim because they'll request your medical records if you die within 5 years of having gotten the policy. They're just going to double check that all the disclosures were correct. And it was horrendous. Brother went through his end of life that year, died, left only the assets he'd accumulated. And because he was just in his 50s and was kind of hitting that power band of his ultimate income, where he's starting to save a lot of money, he didn't have enough for his family to be financially secure. And that whole part of the family has been ejected from that part of the country where the standard of living is really high. The family, deep discord. The family blamed the younger brother for the older brother not taking action, sued him, sued the insurance company. I don't think they got anything except a lot of heartache. And so that's going to lead off our actual tragedies, and we'll start off on the protection front, but just tough to watch somebody go through. Anything you want to add to that one before we hit the
Well,
next one, Corey?
I mean, all of these stories have these inherent contradictions in them, and life insurance is the one that's the toughest, where you can only get it if you don't need it at that time, and the moment that you most want it is too late if you haven't already made those moves. That's tough, and it is true in the world of investing as well, which is what our next topic is gonna be. Periodically, we have clients that we meet, more often people that don't become our clients, that have pinned their hopes on one company. And because of their meteoric rise and the cult following that they have, Apple is more often than not that company over the last decade. And this is
And these are not even people that necessarily ever worked for Apple. These are not people that have any hand in it. We're talking about regular, everyday people, some of them in the tech business, some not.
just everybody. They probably own an iPhone, but that's about
Yeah.
that's about it. And what's great about this is that we have some data to show what some of these rides might have been on, and it's a very pertinent one for me because I owned Apple for a while, full disclosure. Although I don't own it anymore, so whatever I'm saying is not impacting my holdings.
Actually, Corey, for the record, you do. In an academically allocated, globally diversified portfolio, it's only natural that you would have some small fraction of Apple, along with 13,000 other securities in 42 different countries, investing in 192 different countries.
So I most likely do have some some amount, but I can't control the amount. So we actually had one client that has a real and specific story where they almost bought 100,000 shares of Apple back in 2002 when it was $1 a share. Now they didn't do it. Their broker at the time talked them out of it, and now they've got this story in their head of what they've seen happen. 2005, it was at $5 a share. January 2010, it crossed $30 a share. They would have had $3 million at that point. And, today it's at $148 a share. It's been going back down, but in the last 3 months, it was as high as $232 a share, which means he would have had a $23 million holding in Apple. And so
from 100,000.
Now, everyone who's listening, you might be thinking that if I had only done that, like this tragedy of missing that boat, but that's not actually real. That's not the tragedy, because here's the reality. No, you wouldn't have made it from 2002 to today without drastically changing your holdings in Apple. You would have read Money Magazine or talked to a friend at a party or wanted to buy a new house. I mean, would you have lived through that ride back down to $13 a share after it had gone up, somewhere north of 30? I mean, there's several times, as you can see in the graph, where you have these huge drop downs along that way. And remember, we have hindsight. But in the middle of that, all you've seen is Apple go like this, and now it's down at this incredible steep angle.
Yeah, like we do live with it. Like from there one to the other was some kind of smooth rise, and that's how it got there. But would you do me a favor? And right around 2010, there's like a peak and then a trough. Are you able to hover over those two numbers? Yeah, right there. So you got it's up to 100. So let's pause right there. You would have had 1 million to 10 million. So let's say, what was the purchase date approximately when it was $1?
2002.
So from 2002 and then to 2010, you went from 100,000 to $10 million. Let's pause right there. How many people would think appropriately? Now, 2010, did we even have the iPhone yet, Corey?
The iPhone was out in 2010, but it was about 2007, 2008 when we started knowing about the iPhone and having it released. I forget exactly.
Yeah. So think about that. You say to yourself, okay, I'm going to hang in there. I might keep going. And then what happens to the market? What happens just the months after that? If you pull down to that trough. There you go.
Yeah.
Down to $60. So you just rode it from 100,000 to 10 million. Now, number one, you may have been borrowing a bunch of money. You may have been living a better lifestyle. You may have quit your job, sold some and paid off your house. But let's say you actually held all of it, and now you're at 10 million and you drop to 6 million. And people are wondering what's going to happen. It's the mortgage crisis, or whatever explanation people give. That was beyond the mortgage crisis, but so people are freaking out. Apple's going down the toilet, whatever the thing is. There's almost zero chance anybody held through all that. And you know why? You know that is because I promise you that person would have been on the cover of all kinds of magazines like Bitcoin millionaires were for a little while. If that person really existed out there, and if they do, we'd love to interview you on the show. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We will be verifying your past trading accounts if you choose to do so. But if you really rode it through all of this and now are worth over $20 million, we'd be happy to interview you on the show and give you a voice. I don't think you exist. This is a clip to our weekly podcast. So if you like this content, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and go over to your favorite podcast app and subscribe to Sound Financial Bites so you can get our full weekly show. And as always, if our philosophy resonates with you and you want to chat with me or one of our advisors about our philosophy, see if it applies to you and your family, just follow the instructions in the description below.